So I'm Myrid Carten. I am a moving image artist originally from Donegal. I make films for cinema and galleries. So I work with documentary and fiction, often a playful combination of the two, to interrogate the struggles we have for intimacy and the ways we're compromised by our past. I'm based between Donegal and Belfast, but it's not this Donegal, which is important. I don't actually know Inishowen that well. I think it's quite clear that even though I did grow up in Donegal, I went to secondary school in Derry, so my accent, I always say that my soul is from Donegal and my accent's from Derry. But we would just travel up to Gaeltacht, which is where most of my work is around Gaeltacht. And so I know Buncrana, but from being a young person in Derry, but not culturally, is what I would say. And so it was an interesting experience to come here because it feels so similar, but yet very distinct. And I find that's actually true of even if I go to Killybegs, which I did recently in the Blue Stack Mountain. Again, it feels similar but different from around Errigal, which is where I grew up and make my work today. So yeah, what else? I'm really interested, and I'm exploring through this work and previous work the universal desire to be both hidden and known, and the complicated costs of those commitments. And I think that's really evident in this work that I'm making at the minute. When I went to secondary school in Derry, so my ma didn't want me to go to the same secondary school that she went to because it's all the same teachers in Donegal, and she was a bad girl. So she didn't want me to be tarred as a bad girl. And so she told me that Thornhill had a swimming pool. And I was like, oh, I'm going somewhere with a swimming pool, because we were in a tiny school that had like two rooms basically and 30 pupils in Donegal. So I went to Thornhill, and I think in the first year there was an audition that year they were making an Irish language TV show. And the idea behind the Irish language TV show was that it was like northern kids go into the Gaeltacht in Donegal to learn Irish. It was a drama, it was a 6-part series, and it was set in the 80s. So I went along with my friend who was auditioning, and basically I got the role of like the Regina George of the mean girl, Sally Ann O'Shea. And so it was weird because that summer then I went up to the Gaeltacht and was filming. Back in Gaeltacht was where they were filming, so it was very strange. And actually a lot of the cast stayed with my uncle. He was like a ban tea in the house I'm making this film about. But I think that was the first time whenever I seen one of the directors was a woman, and people were saying, oh, you should stay in front of the camera, and I was like, no, I don't. I need to be in control. I want to do directing. So it was that, and then again, it was my ma. She was like, don't do a media degree. She was like, you should come in at a different angle or something. And I really loved art, so basically I went to Central St. Martin's for my foundation, and then I took a year out and worked in an Irish bar, which is great. Learned how to speak to people, which is really good. And then I went to Goldsmiths, and when I went in, I was doing sculpture and painting, and it was actually within the first tutorial that my tutor, who was brilliant, kind of worked out very quickly. He's like, you want to make film? Like go out and make a film. And I was digging a lot at that point. I wanted to do a glass sculpture, like a spade. And he was like, that's going to take you all year, just go out and dig. And they really taught you to think through making, and that was the best thing I think I took away from that experience. And then, but I always knew I wanted to go into cinema. So I worked in a cinema on the side in London, and I was part of the BFI sort of steering group. So I always was doing these two things at the same time, like the moving image, very conceptual side in Goldsmiths in the fine art course, and then trying to also make headroads in cinema in some capacity, or the film industry. And so after Goldsmiths, I was like, oh, it would be great to work on Game of Thrones, go home, learn how to drive. and that was the plan. I did not make it onto Game of Thrones. I made it as far as Line of Duty. I was a camera trainee on that, and I was awful at it. And so it was just one of those weird things where every time I went back to make work, opportunities just opened, like artwork. Whereas in the film industry, it was it just wasn't really cut out for being told what to do and doing it badly quite a lot of the time. But it was such a good learning experience. I'm so glad that I did it, because you learn so much from being on set, and also meeting people who I could collaborate with and bringing that sort of production value into my work has been really valuable. And so that's kind of, I went to Dublin then. I had a really strange jobs in Dublin to kind of support myself on the side, and started making artwork again, and then it just really escalated from then. So I'm still kind of would like to work in narrative filmmaking, but I'm just kind of following the project and whatever the project needs are now, instead of trying to predestine all the time and being, you know, very obsessive about, well, this is moving image artist film and this is short live action drama, or this is documentary. I actually think I was creating false divisions, and it's more like, what does the project need, what suits the project, and how can I make the subject alive? Like, that's really important for me. Like, I'm interested in stake and making something feel like it has urgency and truth, and right now it's hard for me to do that in drama, but it's still something I'd like to explore in future. Coming from quite a sort of working class background, my parents were into fine art to a degree, but like TV and films was so much more the medium that I was engaged in when I was growing up, and I still think like it's such a way to communicate with a lot of people, and I still love it. So I don't know, we'll see what happens. I want you to tell them about the craftsman.
What do you want me to say?
Can you describe him and talk about why he's interesting or relevant? I think, yes, I really want to be thinking through making, and that's actually what the art world has enabled me to do in a way. Like the one sort of drama film that I made, it felt a bit dead, because it had such a rigid pre-production, production, post-production. And so much of the best work that's happened for me has been the intuitive moments. I really love this quote by Andrea Arnold, actually. Well, it's not a quote by her, but she said it in a talk, and she said she always abides by this, like, leap and the bridge shall appear. I think the quote is actually leap and the net shall appear, but I really love her iteration of it, because it's true. It's like, start making the work. Also, I think you're encouraged through residencies and also proposals for work. It's like, you kind of have to begin, and then you're able to show people what the idea is. You can't really wait around and wait for like that sort of magic moment when the work comes out fully fledged, and that has been really useful to me. So I think it's just allowing myself to keep doing that and not knowing. And I do think that there is an opportunity here to be very solitary. And I often think about the difference between, for me as an artist, I sometimes think about the difference between a residency and a retreat. So for me, a residency is, maybe it's the same for everyone, I don't know, but it's, you know, you're trying to engage with wherever you are and make work as a response to that place. Whereas a retreat for me is more about solitude. And I think that Dunree actually, and Artlink, this residency really provides the opportunity to be in between, either or, a bit of both. Like, obviously you're always going to be impacted by your location, but there is the opportunity here to kind of treat it as more of a retreat and kind of go into oneself and be alone. And I think that's really great, because some of the residencies I've gone on have been unbelievable, but it's very hard to continue your own work. Whereas it's really good to be able to come here and actually make headway or make headway with a piece of work and that needs that time and needs that focus. The solitude that Donegal gives you as an artist, especially me, because it also taps into, my childhood here, means that I've been able to go out and experiment in the landscape. And a lot of this family work, which now has, developed an ambition, really started out from, an intuitive question that I've had since childhood, which was kind of like, why are all my mother's siblings such characters, as we would say here? You should have done acting.
I might still, but I'm going to start writing, Myrid.
Write what?
Just biography, just.
I mean, my fiance now, I hate saying fiance, I keep saying Beyonce because fiance sounds so fancy. But he's a writer, and I think I take a lot of inspiration from novels, actually, and writing, and thinking about how can you translate a kind of voice and tone, and even the way books are edited. For example, the one that's really captured me recently that I think I'm going to read it again while I'm editing is Myrid Carten's The Lover. So she has these little, almost like unrelated events, but they're totally related, because the energy from one episode kind of propels into the next. It's between her family, which is like fraught and dysfunctional, and then she has this relationship with this man, and it's just between the two of them. And I'm really interested in, like, how do you bring ideas in that sense, but also so watching him and how he works, it's like the characters become alive and he follows them. The first time I'd ever been up here was whenever I did a music video here. So it was when I had come back and had started working in the film industry a bit, and we did a music video for Saint's Sister, me and a girl from Buncrana who I was friends with. So she brought me up, and I was just kind of stunned by for me, I really liked the outbuildings. I really liked that post-apocalyptic feel. It felt very cinematic around here. Because of this history, which obviously I'm sitting in the middle of now, of this, the fort aspect of it. But for this action, so I knew the site. I had a brilliant experience. It was great fun making that video. I had no money to do it. My dad kept bags of leaves around for a couple of months because we wanted it to look like autumn, and we actually shot it in the winter. So my dad was like collecting leaves outside and drying them on the radiators in the house to take up here to make it look like autumn. But actually it did look like autumn anyway, because in the winter it goes a bit, in Donegal in general, the grass it goes quite orangey, and so it had that feeling. So I knew the site from then, and then whenever I basically had seen about the residency, I thought, well, actually this would be a really good opportunity for me, because, one is conceptually, I'm making this film about my family home, which was my grandmother's house, and when she died, she left it to one of her 10 children, and then it became this besieged fort-like symbol of her love, even though it didn't actually represent anything in money values. And he was kind of camped out in the house, and 4 of his siblings who'd never grown up there, because they all grew up in Glasgow, and she had moved back to build this house. They moved to the town, and they tried to attack him, and so there was various, and that's the film I'm working on. So at the time I kind of thought, well, this would be a really interesting place, because it's an hour and a half from that location. It's Donegal, like I was saying, but it's not the Donegal that I know. And then this sort of peninsula vibe of Dunree, just kind of cut off in some ways, or feels like quite self-contained. I thought that that would be a really interesting place to look at the footage. And then pragmatically as well, like my mother, who is one of the main characters in the film, along with the house, is living in Derry. So it's actually been really great because I'm able to travel there and film her, and then get the distance to come here and watch the footage.
Well, the thing is about the difference is that Danny's got a fixed hallucination, and Danny's is a fixed hallucination because he won't let go of it even when he gets well. The difference with mine is, as soon as I get well, I know they're all hallucinations and I know they're all delusions. I don't hang on to Bobby.
I mean, anything about family obviously is universal, but also about inheritance. And like someone always said to me, you know, there's always a house in these family sagas. So that's true. And then also, I think it's quite rare to see a film from this perspective in terms of like around my mother, but it's something that so many people experience. So that also is giving me strength at times, because I'm like, no, this is definitely important, and it's a shared experience. And so, yeah, no, I'm excited about it. My partner's very excited for me to finish it. Yeah, so, yeah.